So in this video, I'm just quickly talking about short rows for the Machair top. So it's not written in the pattern. However, if you did want to put in some short rows to get a bit of extra space in the bust area, this is one way you could do it. So obviously here I've done it in a different colour just to show you. The thing to remember if you've never done short rows in crochet before is that each short row has to have its own start and end. So it's basically you're crocheting a separate sort of wedge with a row, and then the row has to start sort of near the side seam, and the first set of stitches have to kind of graduate if it's a long stitch, so that you're creating a wedge. So for example, I've started with a slip stitch and I've done two single, two halves before going into the full double sequence. And then also so then this first row of the first short row has one end is attached with a new piece of yarn and fastened off, and because this is a 4-row stitch pattern repeat, I've had to do 4 rows of short rows in order to then, once I then start working in the round again in the normal pattern, that everything matches up. So all I've done is then I've just joined the next row, the next short row. I've joined it sort of 4, I think on this one I've joined it like 6 stitches along the first short row, and then the next one I've done a similar thing. I've just tried to sort of start it further along each short row. I've started and finished it further along to make like a shorter row. So I don't actually have a written pattern for this. This is just really for more experienced crocheters that will have the ability to kind of work it out and understand the basic concept here. So the other thing to remember, to bear in mind, is that you must make sure you end up with the same stitch count. So when you're joining one of these new wedges to the main body, where you've joined with either a slip stitch or holding the tail at the back, and where you've fastened off, it's very easy to mistake those places where you've joined or ended the yarn as a stitch. So that's the other thing you need to take care of, is just to make sure that you're getting the same stitch count when you revert back to working in the round. And also remember these wedges, because this is worked one round front, one round back, you've got to remember to do the same with these short row wedges. If you need more than this extra room for your bust, so more than 4 rows, you can obviously do 8 rows, but instead of starting with this long short row, you would actually start the flip of this. So you would start with a shorter short row, then get longer and longer until you're back to almost a full span of the chest, and then you would then add this next 4 bit on the bottom, so that to get the 8 you'd have it almost like a mirror of this. If you imagine this wedge here was flipped along there like that. So yes, I'm sorry, this isn't like a step-by-step instruction. This is more just an idea of what you could do as a more experienced crocheter if you wanted to add some short row bust shaping for the Machair top.